Hello and welcome back to another episode of Biblical Unlocked. This show is designed to help build your habit of reading the Bible, understanding the Bible, and applying it in your daily life, as studies routinely show that those who read their Bibles regularly have significantly lower symptoms of depression, anxiety, and anger, whilst also having higher feelings of compassion, forgiveness, and a sense of purpose in their life. So if you enjoy episodes like this, please consider following and rating the show. It's free, it helps me out a lot, and you can always change your mind later. And today we're going to be reading Leviticus chapter 25, which is again following on with the holiness, worship, and social rituals and regulations that we saw in chapters 18 to 24. And Leviticus 25 is actually going to give the long-term social architecture for Israel. That is to say, the Sabbath and the Jubilee. What are they? How they are rest for creation, how they are release for the people, and it's a regular opportunity for the people to return to one's family inheritance. And this chapter is actually going to weave together theology, that God is the landowner and redeemer, economics, that we need to have valuations and protections, as well as provisions for the poor and the alien. So, it's a very interesting chapter. The Year of the Jubilee, that's the 50th year after the 7 sabbatical cycles. And the rules for selling and redeeming land and people, the protection of the poor, and the logic of release and restoration, they're all going to be present in this chapter. And what it insists is that the land ultimately belongs to Yahweh, and people are tenants or householders. Okay, so without further ado, let's read the chapter. Verse 1, The Lord spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, Speak to the Israelites and say to them, When you enter the land that I am giving you, the land shall observe a Sabbath for the Lord. 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard, and gather in their field. But in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of complete rest for the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. You shall not sow your field, or prune your vineyard. You shall not reap the aftergrowth of your harvest, or gather the grapes of your unpruned vine. It shall be a year of complete rest for the land. You shall not eat what the land yields during its Sabbath. You, your male and female slaves, your hired and your bound laborers who live with you. For your livestock also, and for the wild animals in your land, all its yield shall be for food. Verse 8 to 13, this is going to be the Year of the Jubilee, proclamation, and liberty. Verse 8, You shall count off 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the period of 7 weeks of years gives 49 years. Then you shall have the trumpet sounded loud on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement, Yom Kippur, you shall have the trumpet sounded throughout all your land, and you shall hallow the 15th year, and you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. You shall return, every one of you, to your property, and every one of you to your family. That 15th year shall be a jubilee for you. You shall not sow or reap the aftergrowth or harvest the unpruned vines, for it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You shall only eat what the field itself produces. Verse 13, In this year of jubilee you shall return, every one of you, to your property. When you make a sale to your neighbor or buy from your neighbor, you shall not cheat one another. When you buy from your neighbor, you shall pay only for the number of years until the jubilee. The seller shall charge you only for the remaining crop years. If the years are more, you shall increase the price, and if the years are fewer, you shall diminish the price. For it is a certain number of harvests that are being sold to you. You shall not cheat one another, but you shall fear your Lord, for I am the Lord your God. You shall observe my statutes and faithfully keep my ordinances, so that you may live on the land securely. The land will yield its fruit, and you will eat your fill and live in it securely. Should you ask, What shall we eat in the 7th year, if we may not sow or gather in our crop? I will order my blessing for you in the 6th year, so that it will yield a crop for 3 years. When you sow in the 8th year, you will be eating from the old crop until the 9th year. When its produce comes in, you shall eat the old. The land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. With me you are but aliens and tenants. Throughout the land that you hold, you shall provide for the redemption of the land. If any one of your kin falls into difficulty and sells a piece of property, then the next of kin shall come and redeem what the relative has sold. If the person has no one to redeem it, but then prospers and finds sufficient means to do so, the years since its sale shall be computed, and the difference refunded to the person to whom it was sold, and the property shall be returned. But if there are not sufficient means to recover it, what was sold shall remain with the purchaser until the year of Jubilee. In the Jubilee it shall be released, and the property shall be returned. Verse 29. If anyone sells a dwelling house in a walled city, it may be redeemed until a year has elapsed since its sale. The right of redemption shall be 1 year. If it is not redeemed before a full year has elapsed, a house that is in a walled city shall pass in perpetuity to the purchaser. Throughout the generations it shall not be released in the Jubilee, but houses in villages that have no walls around them shall be classed as open country. They may be redeemed, and they shall be released in the Jubilee. Verse 32. As for the cities of the Levites shall forever have the right of redemption for the houses in the cities belonging to them. Whatever property of the Levites that may be redeemed, that is, houses sold in a city belonging to them, shall be released in the Jubilee. For the houses in the cities of the Levites are their possession among the Israelites, but the pasture lands around their cities may not be sold, for that is their possession for all time. Verse 35. If any of your kin fall into difficulty and become dependent on you, you shall support them. They shall live with you as though resident aliens. Do not take interest in advance or otherwise make a profit from them, but fear your God. Let them live with you. You shall not lend them your money at interest taken in advance, or provide them food at a profit. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan to be your God. Verse 39. If any who are dependent on you become so impoverished that they sell themselves to you, you shall not make them serve as slaves. They shall remain with you as hired or bound laborers. They shall serve with you until the year of the Jubilee. Then they and their children with them shall go out from your authority. They shall go back to their own family and return to their ancestral property. For they are my servants whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as slaves are sold. You shall not rule over them with harshness, but you shall fear your God. As for the male and female slaves whom you have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also acquire them from among the aliens residing with you, and from their families who are with you, who have been born in your land. They may be your property. You may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. These you may treat as slaves. But as for your fellow Israelites, no one shall rule over the other with harshness. If resident aliens among you prosper, and if any of your kin fall into difficulty with one of them, and sell themselves to an alien or to a branch of the alien's family, even after they have sold themselves, they have the right of redemption. One of their brothers may redeem them, or their uncle's son may redeem them, or anyone of their family who is of their own flesh may redeem them. Or if they prosper, they may redeem themselves. They shall compute with the purchaser the total from the year when they sold themselves to the alien until the Jubilee year. The price of the sale shall be applied to the number of years. The time they were with the owner shall be rated as the time of a hired laborer. If many years remain, they shall pay for their redemption in proportion to the purchase price. And if few years remain until the Jubilee year, they shall compute thus. According to the years involved, they shall make payment for their redemption. As a laborer hired by the year, they shall be under the alien's authority, who shall not, however, rule with harshness over them in your sight. And if they have not been redeemed in any of these ways, they and their children with them shall go out in the Jubilee year. For to me the Israelites are servants. They are my servants, whom I brought out from the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Alright, time for some deep biblical unlocks. In verses 1 to 7, we saw that every 7th year, the land is to rest. Do not sow, prune, or harvest as usual. What grows naturally is food for people, livestock, and the poor. And the Sabbath year again recognizes that the land needs respite, and that human dominion is not absolute. Creation, right? It participates in Sabbath rest, and human productivity must be tethered to the divine rhythm of God. God rested on the 7th day after building or creating for 6 days. In the same way, humans are instructed to do the same. After the 7 sabbatical cycles, which is 49 years or 7 cycles of 7 years, which is 49 years, the trumpet is blown on the 10th day of the 7th month of the year, 50, right, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land. Okay, so you return ancestral property, you free persons, and you let the land rest. And the Jubilee actually prevents permanent dispossession. It actually prevents the cycle of poverty within this sense, because a person will never just eternally be in poverty because of this reset, right? People are freed, the land is laid to rest, and you have a lot of it institutionalizes liberation. People are free during the Jubilee or the year of the Jubilee, and persons may be held, but always with the idea or the remembrance that eventual restoration is possible. And it's interesting, in Luke chapter 4 verse 18 to 19, Jesus actually cites the Jubilee. He says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of Lord's favor." So this is a direct quotation from Isaiah, who's talking about the Jubilee. Okay, in verses 14 to 17, we see, when land is sold because of poverty, the price is calculated by years remaining until Jubilee. So the nearer you are to the Jubilee, the cheaper the sale of the land, because the land will return at Jubilee. And buyers are admonished not to take advantage of their neighbors. In fact, it says, be fair. Do not cheat your neighbors. Be fair, because the Lord is their Redeemer. Fairness is required. So it's actually interesting here. We have this financial market sort of language, because markets must be read through covenant time frames. Permanence is actually not assumed, and exploitation is completely forbidden. Very interesting. In verses 18 to 22, we saw that if Israel follows these laws, God promises abundant provision. Even if you say, "What will we eat in the 7th year?" God will command blessing in the 6th year, so the land produces for 3 years' needs. This actually is a theological promise and encourages trust in God's provision when you obey his Sabbath rhythms. And we're going to see this in Deuteronomy as well, the covenant blessings, that God is going to providentially be faithful throughout the Pentateuch, which is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. In verses 23 to 34, we see that the land must not be sold in perpetuity because God owns the land. This is a very important theological point here. If someone sells ancestral land, a kinsman-redeemer may redeem it, but if it is not redeemed, it returns at Jubilee. And Levites have special cases. Their houses may be redeemed within a year, and their pasture land is permanently given to them. So property rights do exist, but it's all under divine lordship, and we have to remember that the eternal divine Lord over all the land is none other than God himself. In verses 35 to 38, we read about, if a neighbor becomes poor, you're not allowed to exact interest, but help so they can live with you. And this actually preserves dignity and act as God's compassionate people, and loans are to restore and not to exploit. We see a strong moral principle right at the end of the chapter though. You shall not wrong one another, but fear your God. I am the Lord your God. And I think that is the most important point in the... So that's it for this episode of Biblical Unlocks. This show is designed to help you keep up your habit of reading the Bible, understanding the Bible, and applying it in your daily life. I upload daily, so if you don't want to miss tomorrow's episode, feel free to rate the show and follow. Otherwise, just have a blessed day. And always remember, if you're not in your word, you're in your feelings. Godspeed.